People rarely test someone because they want to dominate them. Most of the time, they do it out of curiosity, instinct, or uncertainty. It's a subtle way of asking, "Where are your limits?" without ever saying it out loud. Friends tease, coworkers push deadlines, strangers cross small lines. All of it looks harmless at first. But beneath the surface, it's a quiet evaluation of strength, clarity, and self-respect. Ironically, this often happens more when people like or admire someone. Think about a new job, a new relationship, or a new social group. Early on, boundaries are undefined, so people probe. A joke that goes a bit too far, a favor requested at the worst possible time, a comment loaded with double meaning. These moments aren't random. They're like stress tests, similar to how engineers test a bridge before trusting it with weight. The testing isn't personal, it's procedural. People want to know what collapses and what holds. Here's the part most people miss. Testing isn't a sign of disrespect yet. It's an invitation to demonstrate standards, not through speeches, but through behavior. The problem is that many respond by over-explaining, laughing nervously, or accommodating too fast. That response answers the test for them. And once people learn how you react under pressure, they rarely forget it. What matters next is how those answers are given, and that's where things quietly start to go wrong for most people. Disrespect rarely starts with aggression. It begins with permission, often unintentional. People broadcast signals long before anyone crosses a line, and most of those signals are invisible to the person sending them. Over-apologizing, excessive explaining, nervous laughter, or instantly saying yes are small behaviors that seem polite, even kind. But to an outside observer, they quietly suggest uncertainty. And uncertainty invites pressure, not because people are cruel, but because humans are wired to lean where resistance is low. Picture someone who constantly justifies their decisions. They don't sound weak, they sound reasonable. Yet the message underneath is, "My choices need your approval to stand." Over time, others pick up on that. Requests become demands. Jokes sharpen. Expectations rise. It's similar to leaving a door slightly open in winter. No single gust feels dramatic, but eventually the room gets cold. The signal was never verbal. It was behavioral. One practical shift changes everything, replacing explanation with calm action. Instead of saying, "Sorry, I can't because," a simple, "That won't work for me," followed by silence, does more than a paragraph ever could. Books like The Courage to Be Disliked touch on this idea in directly. Self-respect, expressed through restraint. The moment someone stops decorating their boundaries, people feel it. And when those signals change, the testing doesn't escalate, it evolves into something else entirely. There's a hidden tax on people who explain themselves too much, and it's paid daily. Every explanation subtly places the speaker on trial, as if their choices require a jury's approval. Over time, this habit trains others to expect justification before respect. It's not that explanations are wrong, they're just overused by those who don't fully trust their own authority yet. And people can sense that gap instantly even if they can't articulate it. Imagine a manager who explains every decision in exhausting detail. At first, the team listens, then they question, eventually, they challenge. Not because the decision is bad, but because the pattern invites debate. Contrast that with someone who states a decision calmly and moves forward. No tension, no drama, just direction. Jim Rohn used to say that discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons. Over-explaining is one of those regrets that compounds quietly. A powerful habit to practice is selective explanation. Explain when it adds clarity, not when it seeks validation. Try this in small moments: declining an invite, setting a deadline, changing a plan. Notice how fewer words often produce more respect. Like a seasoned chess player, the strongest move is sometimes not the obvious one. And when explanations stop being your default, something shifts in how people approach you next time. There's a quiet moment most people never notice: the moment someone stops asking, "Is this okay?" and starts acting from an internal rulebook. That shift doesn't come from confidence speeches or affirmations in the mirror. It comes from deciding, privately, what is acceptable and what is not. Once those standards are internal, behavior changes automatically. The voice gets calmer, the pace slows, and reactions become measured instead of reactive. People who live this shift don't rush to defend themselves. They don't argue to be understood. They move as if their decisions already passed inspection because, in their mind, they did. Think of someone who sets a price for their work and doesn't flinch when challenged, or someone who leaves a room when a line is crossed without announcing it. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. Marcus Aurelius hinted at this when he wrote about being satisfied with oneself. A practical way to build this is by defining 3 non-negotiables values or boundaries that don't require discussion. Write them down. Test them in small situations first. Each time behavior matches those standards, self-trust compounds. And when self-trust grows, something interesting happens. People feel it before you say a word. That feeling changes the tone of every interaction that follows, and it sets the stage for the moment everything truly shifts. The day people stop testing you doesn't come with applause or announcements. It shows up quietly, almost anticlimactically. Requests become cleaner. Jokes lose their edge. Conversations feel lighter, more respectful. Not because you demanded better treatment, but because your presence no longer invites negotiation. People sense that certain lines won't move, so they stop pushing them. This change is behavioral, not reputational. It's not about being known as intimidating or tough. It's about predictability. When someone knows exactly how you'll respond to pressure, calm, consistent, and unbothered, they adapt. Think of gravity. It doesn't argue, explain, or threaten. It just is. And because it's reliable, everything else adjusts around it. One useful exercise is to notice what disappears when respect solidifies. Fewer last-minute favors, less passive-aggressive humor, fewer just checking if that's okay messages. These absences are signals of growth. Like silence in a room after noise fades, they're easy to miss unless you're paying attention. And once this phase begins, the real question becomes how to maintain it without turning cold or distant. Respect isn't commanded through volume or dominance. It's established through consistency. The people who receive it effortlessly are often the least performative. They speak when necessary, decide without drama, and follow through every time. This reliability creates a kind of social gravity. Others adjust their tone, timing, and expectations without being asked. Nothing is enforced. Everything is felt. One behavior that matters more than most realize is pause. A brief pause before responding signals thought, not hesitation. It shows that reactions aren't automatic. Another is clean boundaries expressed once, not repeated endlessly. Saying no without anger, yes without resentment, and leaving without making a scene all build the same message. This person respects their own time and energy. Books like Essentialism touch on this idea: less noise, more weight. Try this in real life. Remove urgency from your responses. Not delays out of fear, but delays from choice. Answer messages when you decide, not when anxiety pushes you. Finish what you start. Keep promises small but sacred. Over time, these micro behaviors stack. And when they do, people don't just stop testing you, become someone they naturally adapt to. Living untested doesn't mean living isolated or rigid. It means interactions feel cleaner and oddly more respectful. There's less friction because there's less to negotiate. People don't triangles, jokes don't come with hidden hooks, and requests arrive already filtered. Not because you trained people verbally, but because your behavior trained them silently. Power at this stage stops being something you use and becomes something you carry. This kind of power is quiet. It doesn't rush to correct misunderstandings or chase approval. Think of someone who can sit in silence without discomfort, who doesn't rush to fill gaps with words. That calm signals abundance of options, of self-trust, of clarity. It's similar to the wealth principle Napoleon Hill hinted at. The person who knows their worth doesn't advertise it. They let alignment speak first. To live this way, the habit is maintenance, not performance. Keep standards consistent even when it's inconvenient, especially then. Choose long-term self-respect over short-term harmony. Over time, this creates a strange paradox. the less you try to assert yourself, the less people try to test you. And once that becomes your normal, a new question naturally emerges: what do you do with that kind of calm authority? There's a strange paradox most people never question. The harder someone tries to be liked, understood, or accepted, the more they get tested. Boundaries blur, jokes sting, favors pile up, and respect feels conditional. And here's the uncomfortable truth: people don't test you because you're weak. They test you because they're unsure where you stand. Uncertainty invites pressure. Clarity shuts it down. What if the moment people stop testing you has nothing to do with confidence, status, or charisma? What if it's not about becoming tight, louder, or more dominant, but quieter, clearer, and internally aligned? That idea sounds counterintuitive in a world obsessed with asserting power. Yet, the people who move through life with the least resistance rarely explain themselves, defend their worth, or chase approval. They operate from something deeper. This is about reaching a point where respect is no longer negotiated, where interactions feel lighter, cleaner, and oddly calmer. Not because you demanded better treatment, but because your behavior made testing pointless. Once you understand what actually triggers that shift, everything changes faster than you expect. The real value of this insight isn't intellectual, it's practical. Knowing why people test you means nothing unless behavior changes. The invitation here is simple: stop performing for approval and start acting from internal standards. Choose one boundary this week and honor it without explanation. Observe how conversations shift when fewer words carry more weight. Growth, in this sense, is quiet, but it's unmistakable. Now comes the harder question: where in life are you still negotiating what should be non-negotiable? With time, energy, self-respect? Those answers reveal more than any personality test ever could. Respect follows clarity, and clarity begins the moment you decide that your actions no longer need permission to exist. If this perspective challenged the way you see social dynamics, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. More content like this breaks down power, psychology, and self-mastery without noise or fluff, just ideas that actually change how you move through the world.